Yo, what's going on, guys? Don't worry, Mega Man drops January 7th here, back out with another banger video, and in today's video, I'm finally going to be counting down my end of year list of the worst singles of 2025. Let's not waste any more time because we're already in 2026 and I want to start talking about 2026 singles real soon. We're going to kick this list off with Doghouse by Drake, Julia Wolf, and Yeet. Now, contrary to popular belief, before the fucking Drizzy's Angels come and get me, I don't hate Drake, right? I do hate this song though. I think it's incredibly disjointed. I think the mixing is baffling in some parts of the song. I think the writing is really questionable. Yeat's verse is barely comprehensible. And Julia Wolf's vocals on the intro. One sound like what Halsey sounds like to people who don't like Halsey's music, and two sound completely out of place. So that's why Doghouse has made this list. Now, in at number 39, speaking of out of place, the worst singles of 2025 shouldn't be the type of place that Lil B's in, but this track, Luvia Rain, is just kind of awful. Now, I love Lil B. Shout out Bass God. I probably wouldn't be talking about music if it wasn't for his music to a certain extent. But no, this track's not really it for me. Another track that wasn't it for me is going to be Butterfly by Marina. This track, I think, is trying to convey a good message, and I think has good intentions. I just find it really, really annoying. I'm sorry to say. I'm not a fan of chipmunk vocals really ever, and especially in this instance, it is just kind of grating on the ears. Another track that's grating on the ears, but in every single section of every single instrument and vocal line on here, is going to be Blue Demon by The Voids. I insulted The Voids all over my end of year lists last year, but they came through and blessed us with more disappointing music. Julian Casablancas still sounds like a fucking robot on here. But this time the instrumental is just as scratchy on the ears and abrasive. Not a fan. A track that could have done with being a bit more abrasive is one of the most boring and vapid songs I've heard all year. That's going to be, of course, Ordinary by Alex Warren. You'd think for a guy who used to be in the hype house, he could put a bit more hype into his song. But no, this is just Imagine Dragons, Benson Boone, Radio Slop, that fucking somehow charted for like a million weeks. Yeah, not a fan. I'm also not a fan of this new Baby No Money single, Yes Sir. Now, I'm not going to jump on the hate train on Baby No Money. I think Baby No Money is a cool guy. His music is incredibly vanilla, though. This track's one of the best examples of that. Another track that I'm going to hate on without actually, like, knowing much is going to be this Golden track by Hunter X. Now, I've not seen K-Pop Demon Hunters. I'm sure it's a movie that people watched. But if this song's a trailer for it, I'm kind of glad I haven't seen it because this song is just awful. Like, the vocals on here are just so questionable. And it kind of almost feels like they're mocking K-pop on it. Yeah, not a fan of this track. Doesn't help I hear it every single day on my way to work. Next up, we're going to have another artist who I hate to include on this list because I think she has made some great music in the past. But that's going to be this Teeth Sucker, yeah, 3 times track by Rico Nasty. I just find it really irritating, unfortunately. It has a lot of that like abrasive, almost like punk rock energy that Rico came into the game with, but it doesn't really work out in this case. Still really excited to see her back though. So, next up we get into number 32. Now this one, despite the album being awful, wink wink foreshadowing, for the worst albums list. This band didn't really give us many options because I think the singles were actually the better tracks from this album. But I did ultimately land on Metal Shape of You, and that is of course going to be Caramel by Sleep Token. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear white Englishmen making reggaeton. Like, that's really it. I like the idea of Sleep Token, but their execution continues to leave a lot to be desired. This Vessel guy's vocals are kind of awful. And the metal second half feels even more gimmicky than the reggaeton stuff. Yeah, no thank you. Next up, another track that is extremely no thank you is going to be this Big Body Brothers song by Billy, Marcia Favor, Chandler, and Roy Alfonso. I've not heard of any of these guys, but this song got popular on the app Instagram Reels. I'm also not on Instagram Reels, but I've heard this song. I've heard this song plenty. And I think Anthony Fantano put it best. Sonic isn't blue in the face. He's blue everywhere else. He's not blue in the face. And that's the real reason why this song made the list. Another track that got popular on Instagram Reels and an artist who actually kind of blew up off of Instagram Reels is Kill Carl with Don't Be a Bitch at number 30. I was spoiled for choice. I could have gone with Not My Fucking Problem or I'm a Metalhead Bitch or anything, really. But this is the one I landed on. Kill Carl just kind of makes music about being an asshole. And that's kind of it. Not really much to say on here. Another track that I think I could say a lot about, but I think is best to let speak for itself, is going to be Infamous by Ivy Comb, Yonkagore, and Stefan Afro. Obviously, 3 massive artists in terms of the furry music scene. But I don't think any of them really put in their best work on here. I think this track is just kind of a bit of a mess, and Stefan Afro is not my thing, I'm sorry to say. Now, on the best singles list, I was so excited to talk about comebacks from artists like Clips and Kesha and many more. I actually can't remember what I ended up including on that list, but I know I spoke about quite a few like fairy tale comebacks, but I doubt there's any comeback as exciting this year as Ollie Murs with this new track Bonkers. Ollie has come back and has just released something that sounds exactly the same as what he was releasing before he left the music space. But yeah, I'm bonkers, do. It's like fucking John Lewis advert music. No, thank you. Next up in at number 27. Speaking of John Lewis music, I can't even remember the name of this song. And I almost forgot to include it, but I'm replacing another song on this list with it. It's gonna be this like something that will be together track by Lewis Capaldi. Now, if you couldn't tell already, I am Scottish. I believe in Scottish culture and things. I don't personally claim Lewis Capaldi as part of that, though. He makes music with, like, BetterHelp and fucking sounds like that. No, thank you. Number 26 is going to be a track that's maybe even more boring than that one. That's going to be Eyes by The Devil Wears Prada. Devil Wears Prada, a pretty respected metalcore band, a metalcore band that I haven't really listened to much of, but I have listened to this track and a bunch of the singles for the new record. It is just octane core, Ford Truck Month radio rock bullshit, and it's not my kind of thing. A track that took a lot more risks than that one, however, is going to be this new Avenged Sevenfold track, Magic. Unfortunately, none of the risks really paid off. This just kind of sounds like The Void's making a metal song, and that's not what I want to hear ever, really. Another track I don't want to hear ever, really, but I've heard it quite a bit this year, is Superhero by Oliver Tree. Just more irritating, awful music from this guy. I don't know if he's released a song that I've enjoyed yet, but this one, he might just have topped his accomplishments with tracks like "Life Goes On and On and On," with how annoying this one is. A track that doesn't annoy me near as much, but like is still kind of awful. What would a worst singles of the year list video be without Little Big? That's going to be their new track, Hardcore American Cowboy. It's just Little Big. Like, what more can I say? They're doing their thing again. That thing is just unfortunately not for me. An artist who really stepped out of doing their thing this year, to experiment, is Logic, who started to try and make rage music this year. Everyone's Dead Already is not a good version of that. I think Logic thinks rage music is just incredibly auto-tuned garble, because he's saying nothing on these tracks. He's barely comprehensible on these tracks. You know, and for someone who came out with one of their best albums the year before this, it is actually, like, odd. It's odd to see. But if there's any rage track I want to hear less than anything Logic has put out recently, it's going to be this new Blade and Young Lean track, Advent. Just absolute, like, nothing burger music. There's nothing memorable about this song. Like, I had to actually go back and re-listen to it. Before I counted down this list to remind myself of what it actually is. And I've already forgotten, and that's been 12 minutes of recording. No thank you. A track that I do remember, but for all the wrong reasons as we get into our top 20 here, or bottom 20 really, is going to be Ashnikko with Sticky Fingers. I think we're learning on this list I just don't like white people rapping, but yeah, this track is just kind of repulsive for all the same reasons Ashnikko's music usually is. You know, it's just obnoxious and annoying. But hey, she's doing her thing, I guess. Another artist who's doing her thing and probably she is harming people by being racist, is Ethel Cain with Fuck Me Eyes. Ugh. This song is just, it's not annoying, it's more just like sleep inducing and kind of making my skin crawl music, unfortunately. Not really much to say about that one. Another track that made my skin crawl this year was Messy by Frankie Grande. You'd think that with being Ariana Grande's brother, he would know how to, like, write a good song. But no, I'm yet to hear it. And this track is one of the weakest off his new album. No thanks. Keeping the streak going with some more repulsive music, we're going to be going with none other than Raspy by Jojo Siwa. I think she put it best when she's like, I'm the lady Slim Shady, or whatever she says. Yeah, her music feels just as out of touch as pretty much anything Eminem's released in the last 15 years. Except it's more concerning because she's of the age where she should probably be able to make relevant music. No thanks. Another artist who is incredibly out of touch, but in a far more disappointing and saddening way, is MIA. And this new track, Safe, is just, again, another nothing song. Like, I'm sick of artists like MIA and Grimes releasing these unfinished songs when they used to release good music. I'm sorry, just because you changed to have bad politics doesn't mean you can't make good music. But this track just, like, it sounds like half the stems were taken out, and no. A track that probably has too much going on, however, the opposite problem, is going to be Spectre by Bad Omens, and at number 15. Bad Omens, a band that I never really picked out of the bunch as awful or good, really. They were just kind of alright to me. But some of the singles for this upcoming record have been absolutely disastrous. And this track, I think, is one of the worst tracks vocally I've heard from the band. No thanks. A track that's by two artists I'm very familiar with, though, that you guys will be familiar with me not liking if you're tapped in with the reactions. I said in that pre-Lux reaction that Animals Part 1 was going to be on my worst singles list, and look, here we are. Number 14, I'm going to be going with Animals Part 1 by JID and Eminem. Now, I will admit I'm not an Eminem fan, but contrary to popular belief, I don't hate JID's music. I actually quite liked a lot of the stuff he came out with when he came into the game. But this track is just rapping fast for the sake of rapping fast. It didn't work on Godzilla. It really, really didn't work on Rap God. And it really, really, really didn't work on here. This track, it gets to the point where it's almost got no rhythm or bounce to it. And when the lyrics are meaningless, there's really nothing to draw from it at that point. Now, a track that sounds more like a barren wasteland than it does a song. Should I just get out of the way? 6-7. We're going to be going with Doot Doot in brackets 6-7 by Skrilla. The song's just awful. Like, it barely even registers as music to me. Now, I'm aware of this, like, sort of Philly drill sound being a bit more sparse, but, like, there is nothing going on in this instrumental. And you've literally got Skrilla, like, I don't even know what he's doing on top of it. You know, it's just, like, squeaky voice cracks over an instrumental that maybe has two instruments in it. Not interesting at all, really. Another track that isn't interesting at all, or an album, or an artist that isn't interesting at all, actually. We're going with Miami by Morgan Wallen. I think we've got one of the most annoying choruses of the year. Again, the Chipmunk vocals don't sound good this year. And it's just more Morgan Wallen music where it's like somewhere between country and trap music, but it also doesn't take enough from either to really sound like either. So it's just kind of like this massive appropriation ritual. No thanks. More appropriation rituals. We're going into number 11, Fearless by President. This band is just Sleep Token. At least with Sleep Token, you can say they're original. This lot, like, they don't even have that going for them. No thanks. No thanks. Now, in at number 10, we're going into the top 10. This is unfortunately where the list gets a little less fun. So I'm going to give some trigger warnings before we get into the top 10. There's going to be discussions of politics and awful deeds, unfortunately. But this track somehow managed to triumph, because when I heard this for the first time, I thought it might have been the most offensive thing I'd heard all year. But it's actually probably the least offensive of this top 10. That's going to be this new Ed Sheeran track, Sapphire. He's done it again, lads. He's found another culture to rip off and make a terrible song out of that somehow climbs the charts higher than any of the songs within that culture actually do. It also doesn't help that the song's really annoying. I think that the instruments used, obviously, it's not instruments used typically in Western music, but it also doesn't sound as good as when it's actually used properly. The chorus is absolutely irritating. Chumma 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 na 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 na, I could do this all week. It's just not what I want to hear from a man like Ed Sheeran. A track that I don't want to hear, and that I abstained from hearing this song at first, but when I saw how much of a negative impact it was having, I couldn't help but pay attention to it. That's going to be this New Day Will Rise track from Eurovision this year. Really, really sad to see Israel in the competition. I'm obviously not going to get too much into this conversation because I think it kind of trivializes what's going on over there to speak about it in a silly video like this. But all I've got to say is Free Palestine, and the Eurovision kind of suck for banning Russia but allowing Israel. It just kind of seems like a bit of a double standard, and Israel are literally using their place in the competition to put out propaganda music. So, yeah. Free Palestine and free my ears from hearing this song. Speaking of Free Palestine, we're going to be continuing with more Zionist whitewashing propaganda garbage on I Will Not Break by Disturbed. Really, Disturbed live up to their name with disturbing actions. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try and make quips here. This shit just pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie. You've got this song that's all about persevering and like I will not break, but it's like, you know, you're literally fucking signing bombs. Yeah, like I don't even know what to say. This guy absolutely fucking deserved to get booed off stage, and I'm glad it happened to him. He probably won't see this, but if he does, and somehow, I'm gonna say right now, fuck you, David Draymond. Fuck you. Another person who might actually see this because of how chronically online he is. We're of course going with Falling in Reverse in at number 7. They've accomplished something, because I'm pretty sure they were like number 2 last year. So they've made it 5 places up the worst singles list. Although I was spoiled for choice. The 2 singles they gave us this year were both awful. But the Hardy collab, I think, maybe has slightly better intentions than this fucking Marilyn Manson track, God as a Weapon. I'm sorry, if I wanted to listen to Bad Omens, I would. I wouldn't listen to an alleged rapist, and I'm going to say alleged to protect myself legally, but we all know what I believe. Collabing with fucking Ronnie Radke on this really boring track. Like, at least the other Falling in Reverse stuff I've heard has had the decency to be laughably bad. This track is just incredibly boring. No thank you. Another track that has done nothing really but perpetuate misogyny this year is going to be this 1965 track by Jesse Murph. Now, Jesse Murph is kind of like one of those like Morgan Wallen artists, you know, it's just appropriation country shit. But this track takes it to another level. You know, this track isn't just kind of racially insensitive, it's also glorifying fucking domestic violence. No thank you. This type of shit in the music industry is cancerous. Another thing that is just as cancerous in music and in the world really is this next track. We're going to be going with Dirt by Ace of Thorns. This situation's too personal for me to speak about on here without like triggering myself. So I'm going to just kind of leave this track here and say fuck Ace of Thorns. I don't condone what they did, and I don't endorse their tracks going into the future. Another artist who I can't help but say fuck what they did is Tom MacDonald on this Charlie track. Somehow this tribute song to a racist scumbag who justified gun violence Somehow this feels more insensitive to his death than fucking AI songs about him. That's one thing I forgot to say. I will not be including AI music on these lists, because as awful as I think a lot of these songs are, at least they're made by people. I mean, I don't know if it's made by a person in the case of Disturbed. That's more like made by fucking Satan himself. But no, this track just, as much as I don't like Charlie Kirk, I feel like this track is so disrespectful in a blatant manner that it's actually uncomfortable to listen to. You know, like, I don't want to say I feel bad for Charlie Kirk because he was a horrible human being, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I do feel bad in the sense that his death has literally been politicized to the point where both sides use it as a fucking misinformation campaign. Particularly one side, though. Particularly one side. But I'm not going to make this video a political video. This track just pisses me the fuck off. Now, let's lighten the mood, because we've been on a bit of a streak of me getting angry, and I don't want to get angry. In at number 3, we're going with a song that I actually just dislike as a song. There's nothing, like, harmful attached to it. That's going to be this Bad Santa track by Sleaford Mods. This track is every issue I had with the 6-7 song, but except it's Sleaford Mods. No, I don't actually hate Sleaford Mods. Unlike most people, I don't. I really liked Megaton as a single. I think that track's a lot of fun. But this track is not fun at all. You've got this insanely sparse instrumental and just the guy going, Bad Santa! Over the top of it. Like, it's a very nothing song. And at number 2, we're going with another absolutely nothing song. That's going to be this Joji lead single, Pixelated Kisses. This feels like an even worse attempt at rage music than what Logic and Blade and Young Lean were doing. You know, rage is a genre that's maybe been a bit abrasive in the past, but it's never been a genre I find particularly boring. But somehow in this track's fucking nano runtime, it manages to bore me. I'm not a fan of this one. I'm sorry to say. Now back to getting pissed off and rewarding attention seeking in at number 1, because that's what I always do. We're going to be going with the one AI song to make this list, and that's going to be Cousins by Kanye West, also known as Ye. This track, you know, I'm not even going to really speak about it that much, because I think everyone's kind of said everything that needs to be said about this thing. You know, I could come on here and say, oh, it's an uncomfortable listen, or, oh, it's this, it's that, it's, oh, we don't need to hear about this, Ye. I actually think that this track is really admirable for what it tries to do. In drawing awareness to such vile, horrible subject matter. But, no, this track throws all that admiration out the window when it's not even fucking written by him. You know? Which, I'm not going to invalidate his experience, I'm not going to say it didn't happen, but I'm not being funny. To turn such a traumatic and triggering thing for so many people into a joke with fucking Dave Blunt's in the mix. Like, that's the thing. Only about half of this song is the I gave my cousin head. They thought I was gay shit. The fucking second half is literally Kanye AI vocals doing a Dave Blunt track that already exists. Like, it's not even some unreleased reference. It is a fully released single. Like, I mean, Kanye was always going to jump on the AI bandwagon, so tracks like Preacher Man or whatever didn't really surprise me. Honestly, even tracks like WW3 were less offensive than this. You know, it just kind of was attention-seeking nonsense. Whereas this is turning a real-life problem... Not to say that what he talks about in WW3 isn't a real-life problem. I think that the shit he says on there is absolutely vile as well. Or the shit that the AI vocals version of him says over the top of Dave Blunt's, because that's what this fucking track is. No. No. I'm sorry that this video got so heated, but I think that despite it being such an amazing year for music, we just got so much awful shit in the music industry this year, whether it be Zionist artists, whether it be AI music, whether it be a lot of appropriation shit, it's just not been. It's been a great year for music, but this shit still needs to be called out. And I know to an extent I'm giving these people what they want by giving them my attention, but I think giving this stuff attention is necessary to a certain extent. And if this video does anything to push back against this shit, I hope it does. That's all the goal is. But I'm going to thank you so much for watching this. And please do consider leaving a like if you enjoyed the video. Because it shows me what you guys are interested in. We're going to have more end of year list videos coming. I think I'm going to be trying to get some reactions out this January. There's a few albums that I definitely want to try and react to. So if you're interested in that and you really did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Love to have you on the team. We're trying to hit 40 subscribers by the end of 2026. We managed to do it. We managed to do 30 in 2025. But yeah, once again, just thank you so much for watching. Comment down below what your least favorite single this year was. I'll catch you in the next one. Haven't thought of a name yet. Signing out.